beard looking gnarly.
Yeah, that thing's coming in.
Yes, it's one of the few things my father passed down to me was the ability to grow a very full beard very quickly.
I have the exact opposite problem.
You can't grow any kind of beard and it takes you a long time?
Any hair in general, let's just say. Nothing comes in full.
That might be TMI.
Hey, this is hour one. All right.
The blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah, no, makes life simpler. As people come in, let me say, first of all, welcome to the crossover. We have a special guest who's going to be joining us at the front end of the show for a few minutes.
I didn't know that.
As we let people come in here, reminder that there's a new Sports Cards Culture episode on YouTube that discusses the market separation theory. High-end, mid-range, and low-end market indexes have been rolled out by Card Ladder. And any mail days that we want to show off before we bring our guest on.
No?
Yeah, we'll do it now as we let the room fill up.
We only have one mail day today, and that I already showed, but it is the 2016 Galactic LeBron. This is the second year they made Galactic, and I own this exact card. About a year ago I sold it, and they sold it to someone else, and then that person sold it back to me. So back to its original. I actually graded this myself as well.
Congrats.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
It's a PSA 10 as well, right?
Yes.
That's
Top
a tough,
7?
tough card. Okay, I have
What do you got?
one card mail day as well. This is the 2017 Optic Gold Vinyl. Frank Ntilikina, newest Mavs offseason acquisition. So pretty excited about that bad boy. It pairs with my McCaffrey 2017 Optic Gold Vinyl 1 of 1. So,
Nice.
those now. All right.
I thought you had another one of that guy.
Of Ntilikina?
Yeah.
No, that's all I have. That's the only card.
I thought you showed me his logo, man.
I showed you it. I just don't own it. Somebody won it on eBay. Yeah, somebody won it on eBay not that long ago. Yeah, Publius, you sure did call that, Frank. Okay, I'm going to send an invitation to our guest now.
Nice.
If I can remember how to do this. There he is. All right. Invitation sent. Thought it would be Lonzo Ball, Jose. Did you? Okay. No. Oh, there he is. What's up, Scott? How are you?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
What's up, buddy?
How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Of course. We're doing great.
I like that Frank card that you got.
Yeah?
I got rid of all mine a couple years ago.
I that's what I was going to say. I figured you might have a couple because of the New York thing.
Man, I was really bullish on him. In fact, I had to pay out a bet to a friend yesterday. I made a ridiculous bet like 2 years ago that he was going to be on one of the 3 all-defensive teams, I think. And I had to pay out that bet last weekend, which was a bummer. So I'm glad he's off our hands. You guys can have him.
He played pretty good the other night. He's playing all right.
He's good. He's just not consistent. He's a great defender.
Yeah.
No endorsement quite like the one that says, "Glad he's your problem now." We'll take him. Okay, so Scott, for the people who don't know, Scott is the CEO of Star Stock. Scott, could you just talk a little bit about Star Stock? Everybody knows what it is, but just give us a little slice of maybe what's new in Star Stock world, as well as a big announcement that you have.
Yeah, Star Stock's sports card marketplace. Really, our focus on allowing people to transact, instantly and at scale. without some of the friction that you see elsewhere. Yeah, we're really excited. We announced a couple of days ago that we're launching live auctions on the platform, and they actually went live on the site this afternoon, so you can go in and see what we have queued up. We're launching them on Tuesday, November 23rd. We will start out by launching them in the form of like shorter 1 to 5 minute auctions. And then from there, we'll hopefully move into some longer form auctions as well. But yeah, something that we're really excited about. Hopefully, we'll provide some extra liquidity for all of our users.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Go ahead, Josh. Go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can users who have stuff, in their account on the site, they can send it to auction at any time, or are you kind of slowly rolling it out?
We're slowly rolling it out. So to start, all the cards are sourced ourselves. We're going to curate, source all the cards ourselves. If everything goes well, in a few weeks, we'll allow anyone that has a card in a vault to submit their card. And so that's definitely the plan. That's the vision. But we're going to use our cards as the guinea pigs, I guess, in the first few weeks, just to work out the kinks, how everything goes. We'll take all the risk, and then if everything goes well, hopefully we'll be able to launch that.
That's exciting, man. So is it only cards, or can you buy spots to breaks? Can you buy sealed product as well? Or what type of offerings are available on auction right now?
Yeah, so the first week at least we'll be doing graded cards, and then we hope to open it up for about anything. So yeah, wax, even like individual packs, raw cards, spots and breaks. The way that the tech works now, we can basically add anything we want into the auction, and so it gives us flexibility to play around with different ideas. But we'll start with graded cards. It's the easiest. Obviously, the easiest for people to comp. They're shorter formed auctions, so you don't. If it's a 1 minute auction, if it's a 2 minute auction, you don't have that much time to figure out, what the right price is. What's different, obviously, there's a few other platforms out there that do these shorter form auctions. What's different with ours is that you'll actually be able to see the cards that we're offering beforehand. So like you can go to the site right now, you can see, I think we're doing 20 cards on our first night. So you can actually go and comp them all right now if you wanted to. You can have like a sheet of paper in front of you and you're ready to go. You can do some research prior. So it's not like we're going to be pulling a card, from behind our back saying, hey, this is next, and you have 60 seconds to make a decision or not. We're going to show you what we're putting to auction beforehand. And so you can check it out prior to us going live.
So they go live Monday or Tuesday, right? Tuesday at 5.
Tuesday we're going live, and the plan is we'll do every night at 7 p.m.
Oh, cool.
So every night, same time. Again, if things go well, we'll add more. But that's the plan, at least to start. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you can catch us starstock.com. 7 p.m. We'll be auctioning off probably anywhere between 20 and 30 cards every night. I'd say we're going to test a lot of different, sports, eras, teams, types of cards. But I'd say for the most part, the cards will be somewhere between $100 and maybe like $300, $400.
Yeah. What's the thinking behind the shorter form auctions versus, the week-long thing?
I'd say a combination of easiest thing for us to get to market first, and also just demand for that. And I think that the cards that we have most liquidity for on our market, I think work well for these shorter form auctions. And then I think the entertainment as well. I think what could be really interesting is, because I love everyone loves an eBay auction, but I also love the entertainment of like having like a personality on live, like talking about the card. And so, what's something that we'd like to do is kind of these longer form auctions where then the last 5 minutes they turn into a live auction with one of our breakers live. So, we could do a 24-hour or week long auction. and then in the last 5 minutes they go live, with one of our card breakers essentially. So, but we'll really just like with anything, we'll put this out and we'll see what everyone says. If everyone says they don't like the short form and they'd rather longer form, then we'll scrap it and we'll put out longer form auctions.
Nice. So Scott, I'm sure you guys have done some thinking about this, but you're gonna have to workshop this as well as any selling platform would. But do you guys have protections in place or policies in place that can help weed out shill bidders and inauthentic bidders who are just kind of there to cause problems and they're not really genuinely trying to win the auctions?
Yeah, we've been thinking a lot about that. We'll see how things play out. I think you see one of the good things. I think you see it less in these shorter form auctions than you do in the longer ones. The other thing as well is that we won't have. I don't know exactly like the best way to explain it. If you place a bid, right, that we're not. Let's say you put a $10 bid in, and I went in for $85. It's an $85 bid right off the bat. It's not like an 85 max, kind of like on eBay where it'll put in a $15 bid for me and it will know that I'm willing to go up to 85. And so we think that will prevent or at least minimize the shill bidding as well, where like the price you type in is the price that you're actually bidding. And so we don't have like a max bid price feature on the site yet. But I mean, obviously on any auction platform, that's a major issue, especially in sports cards, but outside of sports cards as well. And so something that we'll keep an eye on and really try to, figure out how to combat it. I think we're going to be really mindful with what our employees are allowed to do, as well. I think that's obviously something that comes up once in a while in the hobby is kind of the fear of inside trading at auction houses and things like that. And so at start, we're not going to allow our employees to even put up cards for auction. We're going to be really mindful and really kind of thoughtful as we roll this out.
That's great. How about publishing records of past sold data? We have some interest in that.
We want that.
We've wanted to do this for so long. We really have. It's like one of the areas that I just like kick myself every quarter because it's on our list of things to get done and we never get it done. We really got to figure it out. And so we should sit down, even if it's even if you guys like would be interested in maybe doing some scraping. I don't know if you guys like scrape off any other sites, but we might be able to put you guys in touch with our engineers and figure out if we kind of do a joint mission on this. But we, providing an API to our data has been something that's been on our product board for a while. I'm hoping that we can get to it next quarter.
Yeah, just hire me as a contractor. I'll bang it out.
You got it. We'll take you.
Nice.
They're laughing. They're laughing. I don't know why they're laughing. Like I'm not good at it or something. It's not very funny.
No, because I'm laughing because he's gonna pay you for like 15 minutes, and you're gonna be like, well.
No.
We're gonna, the thing is, if we hired you, we'd probably want to leverage your expertise elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
It'd be hard.
Hey, while you're here, why don't you do all this other stuff? Yeah, no.
We'd be having you like buy cards and help us build out our marketplace. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Nice.
Look, my email's scott@starstock.com. When you're for a job, there's one waiting for you, man.
All right, man. Thanks.
So Scott, is there anything else that we should cover on the upcoming short form auctions that you guys are debuting soon? I mean, every night at 7 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Pretty exciting. The entertainment factor combined with, you guys gradually rolling it out, testing out the $100 to $400 range cards at first, and then seeing where it goes from there. I like the experimental method to figure out what works. I guess maybe a final thought or question or any final thoughts or ideas that you have, as well as maybe let people know what they need to do if they want to sign up and bid before this one coming up on Tuesday.
Yeah, create an account if you don't have one already. That's basically all you need. The way our site works right now, you need to deposit money prior to the auction. And so make sure that you have money deposited onto the site. In the next few weeks or so, we will be like putting out a kind of frictionless payment system where you'll be able to pay at the point of sale, which will be really nice. You won't need to like deposit money prior, but the way that the site works right now, you'll need to have money already logged in. Other than that, feedback would be much appreciated. So like if you like it, great. If anything that you don't like, even more important to share with us. And then I think we might be doing an auction at some point with you guys, right? I'm not sure if that's something that's in the works or announced or if you guys even know about that, or maybe this is something that
Christina, help me.
We're excited, but it is the first time hearing of it. But it sounds.
We're doing it.
All right. Well,
sounds fun.
Next time you guys are in New York, we'll have to get you live. It's so we'll start off by doing the auctions ourselves, but then we'll hopefully start working with influencers in the space like you guys to come live and auction off some of your own cards. And I think more so than the auction aspect, I'm really excited about the entertainment and kind of like the opportunity to educate people. So if you came live and brought 20 McCaffrey cards, it's a cool opportunity to share with people like why one McCaffrey is cooler than the other, why one's worth more money than the other, and vice versa. And so I appreciate you guys having me on, and I look forward to hopefully coming back on sometime soon.
Absolutely, man. Best of luck. I'll be checking it out on Tuesday night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, take care, Scott.
And if Scott's still in there, we are going to be in New York next week. Most people in the live know that, but we are going to be in New York. I'll be in New York a week from today, and we'll be there at Bleecker Monday the 29th.
Yes, we will. And it's going to be a blast. Okay. Thanks to Scott for coming on. Really cool. What are marketplaces in the third inning maybe or something? I don't know, but that's an awesome development there. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
I have one other mail day that I wanted to do a shout out for real quick.
Let's do it.
And you're going to get one of these soon.
Yeah.
So there's like these slab stands from MyKnack 3D, MYKNACK 3D. He 3D prints these and custom designs them. They're really cool, and they also have a light on them, so pretty neat.
Does it illuminate the card in a nice way? It looks pretty cool on your picture.
And he does like PSA or BGS, and I think maybe SGC because they like fit in real snug, and then the light sort of like shines on the card itself. Pretty neat.
That's awesome. Shout out.
Do we need to prep people for Bleecker Trade Night? Are we going to do a live show next Friday?
That's a great question.
I don't think I will be able to.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to.
We will not be at we will not be live next week. We will be at Bleecker on Monday the 29th.
Yep, there you go. So no live. This is the last crossover of November. So next time you see Josh in the crossover, he may not have the beard anymore.
I will not, thankfully.
Okay, and then we'll be at Bleecker in Manhattan on the 29th of November. So Bleecker says, let's go live from Bleecker on that Monday the 29th. Maybe so. And last time it was so much fun.
There's one stipulation, Mark. You guys supply the Trulies.
That's right. Okay, so a lot of fun stuff coming up. All right, let's get to the questions. David says, will you add Marvel cards to Card Ladder? So we do have a few Marvel cards, David, but anytime one of them gets to the top of the submissions portal, we will add it into the database, and DM me if there's some like really important ones that are really should be on our radar, setting record prices or something like that. DM me, and we'll see about getting them in there in an expedited fashion. All right, Leopard Man Cards says, today I noticed the Justin Herbert National Treasures RPA sold for $100,000. I believe that was a PSA 9 auto 10 on the card ladder headlines. So do you believe that the top hyped players with no titles will see cards selling for high prices for years to come? And so, Josh, I want to break this into two parts. First of all, that Herbert sale was from a month ago, but it just came into our database recently because of a new data source that we've just begun pulling in data from. So could you tell the audience a little bit about that new data source?
Yes. The vault, you mean, the marketplace?
Yes.
Yep. We started pulling in sales from PWCC's fixed price marketplace, which we're very excited about. And we've retroactively pulled in everything they've sold since launch in September. I think that was September 1st. So extremely grateful to the PWCC team for helping us get that data, and we're now going to be bringing that to Card Ladder folks. And we're talking about the Herbert, yes, Herbert National Treasures. Is it just the 99?
Yep, out of 99, PSA 9.
For 100,000?
That's right, on October 15th.
That's real.
That's real, baby.
And you vetted that.
I vetted that. And so if you go to Card Ladder and you click View All Sales, and then you just, once you're into View All Sales, click this link, and it will take you to the PWCC result page for the item. This is a fixed price marketplace item sold for $100,000. It does have a nice patch, but it's not quite my cup of tea.
I don't get it. I don't want to, like, I do have some really cool Chris Paul thicker cards coming back from PSA, which I'm very, very excited about. And I don't want to, like, pump that too much, but I do think, like, the PSA thick card thing is becoming a little bit of a movement. Like, it's subtly becoming a thing, you know? It started with, like, some limited logos, Jordan stuff, and, like, some really high-end exquisite stuff has been put into PSA slabs. And, you know, for a while, people may be able to say, like, oh, the pop is really low, you know, pop 1 of this, which is true because traditionally people haven't graded thick cards. So I think once we push past that sort of false hype train of, like, you know, the pops being so low just because nobody's graded this stuff with PSA traditionally, I do think PSA is looking to make a nice foothold in this market for the thicker cards. And I'm really excited to see how the cards look in the slabs. I've seen a few, you know, in hand, and I think they look really nice. I think they've improved sort of the look of it. So all that to say, you know, there may be something there as to the reason for the, you know, the really high comp, and I think there's a little bit of a subtle, slow movement for people to start grading their thicker cards with PSA. What do you think? Do you think I'm onto something there?
Yeah, I do. I've always personally liked these thicker PSA slabs quite a bit. They have a unique texture to them, so they're kind of like form fitted to the card. So there's no wasted. There's like no wasted space in the slab. They fit really snugly to the card, which I think is nice. And then yeah, you know, on Jordan cards especially, I can't help but notice, if I can just get to a point of the video where maybe the card gets picked up and shown to the camera. Well, anyway, here we go. Oh, he turned it around. I'd like to look at the front of it. I'll go back to the picture of it. So the one thing that I love about Jordan patch cards in these PSA slabs,
Red.
The red, that just pops, man. That just really, really pops. And that the PSA red, when it lines up with a color scheme on a card, I think is really tough to beat. I've always enjoyed the thicker PSA slabs. I thought they do a nice job with those.
I'm coming around on it. I've typically shied away from it, but I'm coming around, and, you know, I put my money where my mouth is, and since all my Chris Paul exquisite PSA, and I'm going to be getting it back a little bit this week. I'm getting my first one tomorrow, and then I'm going to get more back next week. So we'll see. I think it's going to be exciting though.
Yeah. So how has that process been, or do you want to wait and talk about that after they're in hand?
Well, PSA is really fast.
Yes.
You know, because you're paying for the higher service level, there's much quicker turnaround times. I mailed them last Friday. They got into their building, or I mailed them last Wednesday, got into their building last Friday, and I've already got the grades, and I have them tomorrow. So about a week and a half turnaround. But this was at the $300 level. The $150 level stuff I sent has not been graded yet.
Got it. Was it Express or Super Express?
The $300 is Super Express. The $150 is Express. So I think I sent 12 cards at Express and 5 at Super Express.
Wow. Nice.
It's fast. I mean, you know, obviously there's rumors about the lower tiers opening up. I've got a ton of stuff that I would love to hear about, you know, for that. So
Yeah. It's mentioned in the chat that Heritage recently crashed during an auction. I did hear about that as well. We didn't get any questions about it, but you never like to see an auction platform go down mid-auction, but it does happen. So hopefully they, you know, can transfer over to a new platform, you know, or get that worked out. So the question that we just were riffing on there is about it. First of all, it was about the headline on the Herbert, but the second part was asking, do you believe that the top hyped players who have no titles will see their cards continuing to sell for high prices for years to come?
yeah, I used to try to fight this. You know, this I don't know what you call this. It's just a part of the hobby. You know, I used to try to fight it. Like, why are these cards selling for so much? Why are people spending money on people that haven't won Super Bowls? And I've come to kind of just, you know, accept that this is kind of part of the hobby. And this is like what drives interest. You know, the people are interested in the potential of making a lot of money, right? It's a little bit of a gamble. Like, you're thinking, hey, I'll buy this for 100 grand. I think that Herbert is the real deal. I think he's going to be the next whatever, and I think this is going to be worth more in the future. I mean, there's nobody that's buying this card without thinking in those terms at least a little bit, unless you're just like incredibly rich, you have the money to be able to spend, and Herbert's your favorite player, and you don't care if you lose all the money. I don't think that's playing out much. I think it's mostly people are excited about the gambling part of it, the prospecting, the ability to say like, hey, I was right. I told you guys Herbert was going to be good. I think that sort of interest in the hobby is a good thing. I think it's necessary to kind of drive the ecosystem of the hobby overall. So I've sort of just accepted it, and you know, I'm not going to be the guy to tell people how to spend their money. And if that's what you want to do, that's great. I don't know. Do you have anything else? I'm being more reasonable than I normally am.
Nice. No, I think that's really good. I want to add one thing that I started worrying about this like a week or two ago, and it's been kind of in the back of my mind. What happens when we have like 6 or 7 years worth of like very highly prospected young players, and with each year that comes out, like think about this, like with each year that comes out, there's a new set of Prism Golds. So like there's a new Dwayne Wade Prism Gold, there's a new LeBron Prism Gold. All these players get a new Prism Gold, and like those cards, you know, they will have strong markets too. And it's like, when do we as a collective hobby like run out of money to stop setting record highs on everything just because there's the supply of cards increases quite a bit every year, not just with new prospects, but with cards of the established great players as well that matter. And I just wonder, you know, when do we reach the capacity of what we can handle? And if and when we do reach that capacity where, you know, I'm a collector and I just, you know, there's new cards coming out every year and I just can't afford them. Like, we definitely reached that with Luka a while, two years ago now. But when that happens, does that mark the point at which people have to start making the tough choices about, well, is it going to be Herbert or Burrow? Because I can't have both, and now both of these guys have 5 years worth of cards, you know? Or is that just never going to happen, and there will be a trickle of people coming in? I don't know, but that's a thought that had been concerning me, is like, we've been around many, I've been around back since 2016. Some people have only been back since 2018 or 2019. But, eventually the year passes, got 150 new Luka 1-of-1s, come out every year. And I don't know, I just think about that. Like, the supply keeps increasing every year.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple thoughts, listening to you is one, an iconic card collector brings up a great point. He's like, who is this actually benefiting? Is, the question that you and I always ask ourselves is this good for the hobby? And that's the real question we should be asking ourselves here, not, I'd prefer not to just say like, hey, it's your money, spend whatever. The real concern is like, is this good for the hobby overall? I mean, it's good that like more money's coming into the hobby. I'd like to see it spent a little bit more wisely because I feel like this is a pretty big gamble that's probably not going to pay off. So it's probably not great for the hobby, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's the free market. The other point is that it's just so much money.
Yeah, it is. So I guess here's the flip side of the coin. Maybe we're nowhere near capacity, and people are getting by with spending as much as they need to, even though they could be spending quite a bit more. And
I thought Sorry. I lost my train of thought. The other thought was like, you were talking about, new cards keep coming out. I think what is going to happen, and it sort of happened to you and me, it's like eventually you're going to have to pick your niches within the entire hobby, and it's like you're going to have to give up and just kind of concede to the fact that you won't be able to get every new LeBron and every new Luka that's released. And you really got to hone in on your focus, and until you like literally complete that little niche, you really should do your best to not stray from it. And so what I mean by that is like, I've been pretty focused on LeBron Exquisite and Gold Refractors, and I strayed by getting a Galactic, and it's like I broke my own rule of like, oh, this is Panini. It's like the only Panini LeBron I own. You have to like make exceptions and really make tough choices to jump in. Because now the question is like, do I need to go after every Galactic? That's silly. Like I'm not gonna open, like by buying one card, have I opened myself up to spending another $100,000? That's a big decision. So you gotta like really start to hone in on what decisions make the most sense for you as an individual, and you gotta start to like really think about this thing long term if you're gonna be involved in the hobby.
Right on. Yep, I agree. So okay, all right, good, tough topic. I don't think anybody really knows which way that one's going to break. I think everybody is sort of in disbelief at the prices of new young players, but nobody saw that coming. But nonetheless, there they are, and they seem to be holding pretty well.
Nothing we can do about it.
No. Okay. So. Slabs for Hayes, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite question askers every week.
Cards and candy. Watch out.
Cards and candy still the GOAT. Okay. I think he only sent in one question this week, though. Very disappointed. By his standard, he usually has 5 to 8. But maybe he was like, I'll give these guys a break this week. Okay. Slabs for Hayes writes in and says, I am a huge fan of Card Ladder's price check feature. Thank you, Slabs for Hayes. Are there any plans to allow Card Ladder users to break up a player's total market index, a player's market index, so that the player could have high, the player could have mid, the player could have low, and then we could project card prices using the price check feature, but tying it to the appropriate high, mid, or low end index? That would be incredibly useful. Thanks.
I feel like you tweaked his question so that you could get this feature for yourself, Chris. This feels like a really awkward way of asking me to build this for us. But no, I'll bite. I'll bite. That's a great point. I'm thinking about the tech right now as I'm talking about it. Yeah, that's something for sure. I think the part that makes it fuzzy is like I don't really want to get to a spot where per card, we're having to make this like on the fly dynamic decision of like, oh, does this go into the index for the player, the high end index for the player, the set index? Like, does it map to the grade? Does it follow the ratio of grades? Should this be 2x to 9? Like, there's just so many rules that like the simplicity of the player index has worked fairly well. It's struggled on the case where the BGS 9.5 is priced, predicted price higher than the PSA 10s. Like there's these little outliers, but I also don't want to like overreact and just like go the opposite where a card's predicted price follows literally every bucket that it could possibly fall into, and it like averages them and builds this crazy algorithm. So we just gotta be mindful of that. We'll play with it for sure, but I don't have like a really good answer.
Yeah. Slabs for Hayes may or may not be my alias. No, I'm just joking. Slabs for Hayes writes in a lot of great questions. I had not thought of this, honestly, and I thought it was an interesting concept, but I think it's a little too sophisticated for my personal taste. It becomes so nuanced at that point that there's a real risk of confusing less sophisticated users who are trying to use the feature. So, but when I say this, and write back and let us know if this is helpful. I believe within the collection feature, you can still tie the value of a card that you're trying to predict. You can use the collection feature to tie it to 5 different, up to 5 different cards, So you could make your own little 5-card index that you could use for price projecting purposes using the collection feature. So that's a little bit of like a hack, but like that might be something to at least mess around with in the interim while we think about building out a feature like that.
Yeah, one of the Casey Kleck says, explain this to me like I'm 5 years old, like Michael Scott. I hear you. One of the things that I always strive to do in building software is to like make the default something really easy and something where the user doesn't have to think and it just makes sense. And then also give them the power sort of not buried, but like make the really super hyper power feature type things a little bit harder to get to where the power user can get to it and they're comfortable with it, but you don't want to make that the default. So maybe there's something to that thought.
Yeah, well, really, really smart question. For sure.
Big brain question, as we say.
Big brains. Okay. All right. So we had a few questions, multiple questions, on Josh Luber's interview on Sports Card Nonsense that came out yesterday. Josh, you haven't listened to that yet, have you?
It's been a really long day, Chris. Give me a break.
No, it has. I listened to it earlier this morning, but not super carefully. I definitely want to listen to it again. But like, I think we can run through some of these questions.
Okay.
Or at least we'll take a shot at it. So Ryan Bitter.
I'll play a clip of myself nodding on loop.
Yeah. Okay. That probably would work actually. So Ryan Bitter writes in just to say, would love to hear your thoughts on the Luber interview. In Cardboard Veritas, who's also quickly becoming a goat of question asking, says, looking forward to the show. Regarding the Luber interview with Sports Cards Nonsense, there are 3 things that stood out to me. Number 1 was the Dutch auction / distribution ideas. I think technically it was a reverse blind Dutch auction, which is something quite different than a Dutch auction. Number 2 was a Luber.
But it sounded better than what we're used to as a Dutch auction. It
did sound interesting. I may hazard an attempt to recap what that means.
I can if you can.
Okay, let me try, then if I mess it up, you fix it. And,
like what?
And then number 2, he says, Josh Luber repeatedly referenced 10xing the size of the hobby as the goal. And number 3, grading being an unlikely vertical for fanatics, largely because they respect what PSA has built, which that was one of the more revelatory it was interesting to hear him say that. So he goes, it seems clear to me that Josh Luber gets it and is the right guy at the right time for this job. What are your takeaways? So Josh, you had a reaction to and this, I can corroborate this. Luber did, in fact, say that PSA already has such a strong presence in grading that he didn't commit to anything absolute, but he said there's probably not a real place for them to enter
Yeah.
and compete in grading. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I've said on this show so many times, the only way to succeed in grading is to be grading for a really long time. And so, like, because they're so behind PSA in terms of like the registry, the trust factor, the established set of grading they've already made, and like the gem rates, like there's so many things where it's all time based, and I feel like we beat that horse pretty dead. And so they're like Josh knows that sort of that path and how difficult it would be to overcome that. So I think smartly is starting to note it started to like pivot away. It's good. My reaction is just like that they've said it out loud, honestly. Like at this point, we know so little about it and what it's going to become. Any like these little nuggets that we get, and we get it on a great podcast like Sports Card Nonsense. Any of these little nuggets that we get, it's it's fascinating. We can react to it. We can try to dissect it and figure out what's going to happen. Ultimately, we obviously don't know what's really going to happen, but it's fun to talk about, especially given that they are going to be our new overlords pretty soon.
Right on. Okay, number 2, that in Cardboard Veritas brought up actually ties in with somebody else's question. So let's just try and tackle it this way. Kelly Rippenlist says, "Can the hobby grow exponentially as much as Luber thinks that it can, or in other words, 10x, while still allowing cards to remain valuable and collectible?" So the issue there is like during the interview, Luber at one point mentioned he wants it to be so that anytime you go to Target, anytime you go to Walmart, anytime you go to a hobby shop, and he's projecting that there will be 10 times as many hobby shops as there are now. Anytime you go to one of those locations, there's always product available. You never don't have product available. And I think that's a little bit worrisome because, or at least, the thought that I think this question is getting at is that if that happens and product is ubiquitous and readily available at all times, the perceived scarcity of it, starts to become an issue. So what do you think about that? Can the hobby both grow at 10x and we have 10 times as many hobby shops and product is on every Target and Walmart store shelf? Can the hobby 10x while still allowing cards to remain valuable and collectible?
Well, if you remember the white paper that he wrote, that was basically the main topic, right? The main topic of that article that he wrote, the paper that's still living, is how do we grow the hobby while also not flooding the market with too much supply? How do we keep this balance? This is the ultimate trick. This is the ultimate key to unlock the balance between supply and demand, keeping it cool and perceived to be difficult to obtain, but also enough supply to keep the market growing. And they obviously don't have that answer today. There's no one knows the answer to that question. So I'll just kind of attack the like 10x part of this question. Like, do I think the hobby can 10x? Look, I think we're not ones to overly hype something just because we feel like it, and that's kind of, I'll leave that to the NFT guys. Like, just hype up stuff just because. But look, I think if all the right moves are made, the right people are in the right places, and we can keep this thing growing organically. We get the right people, and in leadership positions, we get the right sort of fun factor to continue. I think anything's possible, and we can continue to grow this thing. 10x seems pretty high. I don't want to put a timeline on that, but like that's very ambitious. And what are they supposed to say? Like this is kind of like how running a business works. You want a 10x, that's the goal. So like let's shoot for it and hope to make it reality. 10x. If we 10x, that means that it's not as niche anymore. It's not as cool. So that's the negative. The cards are worth more. It's constant back and forth, supply and demand. I don't know. There's not really like a perfect answer. Nobody knows. We don't have a crystal ball, but we can just sort of, play with the question for now.
Yeah. I don't know that there's much more to say. It's such a wide open question, wide open topic. We'll just have to really wait and see. I know one thing that Josh Luber said that I like quite a bit was he said, he really envisioned StockX as being this incredible transformative marketplace that he co-founded and that sort of revolutionized and rapidly expanded the secondary and primary markets for sneakers as collectibles, as financial instruments, as pieces of pop culture. But Luber has said over and over again that he finds that trading cards are a more perfect match for the vision that he originally had for StockX. And no doubt about it, StockX was an important variable, it would seem, in the expansion of those markets. So perhaps there is something to be said about bringing that mindset, that mentality to cards. But there certainly is reason to be concerned as well, because Luber also had that part in the white paper that said, when you're trying to determine a formula for how much to produce, it's optimal to produce less than the demand.
Mm-hmm.
Don't meet the demand. Don't go over the demand. Produce less than the demand, so that there's always the perception that there's not enough to go around. And that's the concern that I come back to. If there's always boxes of Prism available on every store shelf and at every hobby shop, is it really going to feel? Aren't we going to find ourselves in that position where more has been produced than there is demand for?
Yeah, we don't want to be milk cards.
There you go.
Mike's in the chat, and he said his takeaway was evolution, not revolution. I think that's a great way to kind of summarize succinctly. Is like, it's going really well. We've basically already 10x'd, and so it's really hard to 10x again to have 100x. So I don't think that you have something that 10x's and then your goal is to 10x it again by saying, I'm going to start over and, rebuild this whole thing. I think it is like the next step. It's like this next evolution. What's something that can improve it? And how do we take what's worked really well? How do we take the brands that people really enjoy? How do we take the concepts that people enjoy, and how do we make them better and add to it? I think that's the important thing to point out, that based on that, I think they are hyper aware of that. They're hyper aware that like people really enjoy some of the foundational pieces of how the hobby is today, and they don't want to completely overrun it. What was the word that Michael Rubin said though? Brutal. So yeah, that was a gross overreaction to something you'd say when you first jump into a brand new space and you're like, oh, it's brutal, I'm just going to redo it all. And then you really get into it. You hire the right people who know the space already. You learn some of the nuances. I think he would probably change that stance over the next, couple of years. So.
Oh, good. Now, Josh, do you know what Wawa is? Store?
No.
Wawa stores? You do?
No.
No, you do not. Christina, do you know what Wawas are?
Yeah, it's a mid-Atlantic to northeast thing.
It's like I think Josh Luber said it was like a slightly nicer 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it's a nicer 7-Eleven.
And Corey Yamwax says cards opened at 2 a.m. after a Wawa visit are probably not going to gem. I think that's a fair comment. Now,
okay, let me just say, like, Wawa is like the suburban 7-Eleven. Like, it was in suburbs. Yeah.
It's like the Target to Walmart.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Lot of love for Wawa in the chat. Okay. In Cardboard Veritas, final point was the reverse blind Dutch auction. Christina, can you just come over here and just explain it? Actually, I was trying to play it out in my head. I was just like, no, let's just have Christina talk to the camera. What is a reverse blind Dutch auction?
Okay, so it's like
your glasses look weird. Get up close.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
It's my blue light because I'm looking at the screen. Okay, you have 10 boxes of cards. What it's going to do is there are like 50 people bidding on them, say, and 10 people. Sorry, Mike is making me laugh.
Don't mute I'm turning off the chat.
I can still see it. So okay, you have 10. He's blocking the bottom of the screen. You have 10 boxes of cards. Everyone's bidding on them. So person 1 bids $900, and then it goes down to person 10 who bids $600. Now it's blind, and everyone knows that this is the time, and like you can put your own bid in. So once like all the bids are in, or like the time runs out, the top 10 are the winners. But instead of person A or person 1 paying 900 and person 10 paying 600, everyone pays 600. It's not like a countdown, it's a flat time stop blind auction. That's what it is.
That was very good. I would not have been able to do that.
I would have I would have pulled it up on my computer and read it off some internet site.
So basically, like Luber was saying, this is a much more equitable way to do Dutch auctions, because in the Panini model Dutch auction, one guy might have to pay $10,000 for the box, the next has to pay $8,000, $6,000, and then it bottoms out, and then the last few people get it at $4,000. But under this
people
model,
just feel bad about it. They just like feel bad about themselves.
yeah, and that's what Luber said. He said that's this way nobody regrets their purchase or feels like they lost out. Everybody feels like they won.
Yeah, because then it's like the reverse Dutch. The way that Panini does it, you feel like more than half the people feel like they just like lost some gamble, as opposed to like finding the market price for what an item is worth. It's just a very different, like, it's a gambling versus like market value of an item to let the market decide. I like it.
Yeah, and that's what he was explaining. Is like, yeah, and he also like gave props. Like they did not create this. They did like research on how different people do Dutch auctions, and they decided that the blind reverse was the best one for like fair market actions.
Chris, my thought is like, because of all this big brain stuff that's happening now, like that we're already talking about stuff that's like, yeah, that makes more sense. Like it's, it's just going to keep getting a little bit better, a little bit smarter. We're going to sort of refine what it is that we're talking about in the long term for cards. And it's like, my confidence is growing is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree, man. We're in a whole new frontier. The amount of transparency that Josh Luber has provided into his thought process, not even being in charge of a single product yet, is more than I think we've ever had in this industry, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
right.
That's good.
The most transparency we've had since Card Ladder.
Let's go. Last Luber-related question. Cardinal Sports Cards says Josh Luber, in both his white paper and the podcast with Sports Cards Nonsense, makes many plausible comparisons to the card market and where the sneakerhead market was during its infancy. What do you think are the major differences, though, when comparing the sneakerhead market to the card markets? I don't know if Josh has anything on this. I don't have anything on this because I have no expertise. I'm not a sneakerhead. I never collected sneakers. I barely knew a few people who did. So I really have nothing to add to this very much.
I don't know a ton, but I do know that, like, there's not as much, like, big time, like, long-term investment type shoes. Like, there's not, like, a PMG green. I might be wrong. Like, you guys can just, like, destroy me in the chat. It's fine. But my understanding was that there was less of that, and it was just more about the flip culture and, like, more about, like, the drop releases and, there is like rarity and stuff, but it wasn't as much about like the historical long-term investment type stuff. That was my take. So I don't want to say any more. I don't know enough, and it would be stupid of us to try to like dissect that.
Well, our buddy Jordan Hagedorn just opened a card shop in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Maybe we could have him on in the not so distant future, because he like Josh Luber, has navigated both spaces extensively, sneakers and cards, and maybe he could shed some insight. Because Jordan has said to me over the years repeatedly that he really sees a lot of comparisons between sneakers and cards, and so far he's been right all the way down to the Josh Luber ascension in both industries.
One more thing though, like it's super silly, but shoes are very big. It sounds silly, and you could laugh if you want, but like I'm telling you, the fact that these are like small, stackable, very easy to like, store. If I bought 10 pairs of shoes, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? 10 cards, like, dude, you won't even notice. Like, they'll just like stack up, fit in my little 2-row, and you won't even notice they're there. So I still think there's a lot to that, and I don't think it's silly.
A 2-row is the exact same size as a shoebox, and
you can fit so many cards.
And when you collect sneakers, you have to keep them in the box. So just think about that when you're thinking about like
the space that your like people would be storing their collections.
Yeah, like a big time shoe collector. And I've seen that Sneakerheads documentary like 5 times. I love that documentary because it's like the only thing that's Netflix quality and like kind of close to cards. So if someone creates the Netflix card documentary, Ken, or show, then I'm just gonna like consume it so many times. And all the people who are big time shoe collectors in that or big time flippers, whatever, they literally have like a warehouse or like a garage or they like rent out some huge space, and it's like this is so ridiculous. I could have my entire card collection in a box, and you have to rent a warehouse. It's, okay, move on.
Good. Okay. Drake's PC says, I enjoyed the Stacking Slabs podcast with Chris and Brett talking one-of-ones and dream cards. Question for you both. What dream card or cards were easier than expected to acquire? And conversely, what dream card or cards were more difficult than expected to acquire?
I haven't watched that. I haven't listened to that podcast either, so I'm going to listen to that as well. I have one that was more difficult than I thought. The Green PMG Penny Hardaway just was like, took so long. It was like years, and it was very painful, and ended up making it more worth it. I can't think of one that was like easier, like super easy, because there's 2 levels to it where it's like, one, you have to build up the money to get it, and you got to find it. There's 2 things that make it difficult. I just can't think of one where it's like, oh, I just have all the money, oh, and I found it. Like it's never that easy. That's why I'm struggling to think of one that was easy. Maybe like the LeBron limited logos. That one kind of fell into my lap. Like I had the money from something else, and then like someone didn't pay for it on PWCC, and they're like, "Do you want it?" It was just like ended up being too easy, and I'm happy for it because I love the card. But that was one that was like kind of easy. It kind of fell in my lap.
Nice. Okay, hard one. Back when this card was 1/10 of its current price, I found a copy of the 97-98 Ultra Platinum Medallion Michael Jordan, the base set, not the 98 Greats, in a BGS 9. And this is 3, maybe 4 years ago now. And the guy who owned it was kind of dangling it for sale. And then I made a strong offer, and he was like, no, but maybe if you come in a little bit higher, we'll be close. So I came in higher. You know me, I'm not afraid to pay strong. And so I came in higher, and then the guy negotiates again, and he's like, no, how about even higher? And he's like, and he's like, oh, and by the way, I'm still not sure if I want to sell it. So I was like, I was very frustrated at this point because I'm like, this is a Jordan Grail, but like this isn't a PMG. Like, dude, what are we doing here? So I just said, screw this, and I went to my other friend who I knew also had a copy of the card. He wasn't even trying to sell it, right? But I was offering a healthy chunk over market, and he was like, "Screw it, yeah, I'll sell it to you, man." And so that was just hard because it was like this guy was needlessly driving a hard bargain with me, who is an easy buyer in most instances, and so I just went to this other guy and bought it. But that was harder than it needed to be. Okay, and then easy. Oh, I got a great one. I was just sitting in the office of my law firm at the time in the summer of 2019. I was just a summer associate. Yes, it was an informal dress code at that firm. But I was sitting there summer 2019, and I just went on eBay, messaged a guy, and bought the Luka Prism Gold rookie BGS 9.5 just in one DM. Just said, hey, want to do this? He said, yeah, sure. Literally showed up at our apartment the next day. It was just sitting there on eBay, and I got it for less than what he was asking. So
I've probably heard that story, but I didn't. That's a great story.
yeah.
They're fun too. Like it's like, come on, karma, give me an easy one. Sometimes you get them.
Sometimes you do, and idle time isn't always bad. If I didn't have that idle time sitting in that law firm office, I would have never bought that card.
You brought up another fun little, piece of the hobby where it's like once you commit mentally to spending a certain dollar amount on a certain card, you sort of like gotten over that hurdle, like whatever, like that money's already gone. I've already spent it in my mind. So it gives you this new avenue to like like very freely go out to everyone who owns that card and just like offer that same dollar. And you did that and it worked. I like that. Same for selling. Once like I've made this like a internal commitment to sell a card for a certain dollar amount, it just becomes a lot easier. And it's like at this point, it's like, man, I'm definitely not owning this card in a year. It's like my mind's made it. It's like it's already mentally out of my Flickr. It's gone from my Instagram to sell this thing.
Dude, I'm the same way, especially with selling. Once I've made up my mind to sell a card, there's no going back. It's gone. And I don't,
Yeah.
in most cases, I never want it back. Once that card is gone, it's gone.
Because if you keep it, it's like you're always gonna have this little bit of doubt in your mind about like, remember when I almost sold that? Well, why did I want to sell? Oh, because there's something wrong with it, or you know, your tastes change, or you want to shift, and it's like it's gone. You're right, it's gone.
It's gone, man. That's why it's very dangerous to like pull out the PC and start saying, "What if I sold this stuff?" Because like when I start doing that,
I do that. I do that once a month because you know during a month, if we've got 5 or 6 mail days during that month, you know I've got 5 or 6 cards more now than I did a month ago. I look at my PC and like, could it hurt to sell 5 or 6 other ones in a different area or at the bottom or whatever? And it's like, no, it wouldn't be the worst thing if I sold a few. That's me. I know some guys like to shout out to Josh Keen if he's listening. I don't know if he is, but that dude will just like not. He'll just keep piling it on. Like, no, I'm not I'll sell. What does it even mean? He just keeps adding, and I respect that. I respect that avenue as well.
I was wondering who you were going to go with because there's a number of guys. Who
Yeah, right. I respect the hell out of that person because I can't get to that mental space, but it's fun to think about.
Dude, that guy probably has a 12 by 12 room,
you know,
that's entirely filled with slabs of the GOATs, Barry Sanders,
the other one
Jordan.
The other one I could have said is Nat. That dude just is like a black hole of cards. It's like, oh, you sold it to Nat. Yeah, you're not. That one's never coming back to the market ever. Like, oh, it's a 1 of 1. Great. That's his. So that card is now not existent. Go through Nat's Flickr. If you go to photo stream, it's basically a reverse time of like when he uploaded it, so you can look at the newest to oldest. It's like, what the fuck, dude? How many cards do you have? You have like a gold prism of like every player ever.
Dude, he's the GOAT, man. There's really no denying it. What's up, Carvin? By the way, Carvin has a new project out soon, guys. So be on the lookout for Carvin. All right. Preston's Cards, who I want to give a huge shout out to because he is one of the most diligent submitters of private sales to the Card Ladder database, as well as helping us catch eBay auctions and listings that we may have missed. So huge shout out to Preston's Cards. He writes.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate it. He helped me fix some John Morant search queries that we had that I noticed. I made a very stupid mistake on the search query. So it was a 2019 card, but I was minusing off 20 later in the query because there was a parallel number to 20 I was hoping to exclude. But the problem was that a lot of people write John Morant cards as 2019-20. So I was removing the 20s, but I fixed it because Preston helped me catch cards I missed. So thank you, Preston. All right, here's Preston's question. Shohei Ohtani's prices after the MVP win. What do we think about that? So I actually have something data-driven that I could use to answer his question. But Shohei Ohtani, I believe, was unanimous AL MVP. Do we want to say much about this, Josh?
I usually my initial reaction usually is like try to avoid that being your barometer of like, do I buy a card or not? It's like you don't want to put I don't want to like assume that something's going to go up because of good news. I don't want to assume that it's going to go down because of bad news. Like, I just don't think of cards in terms of like these not a one-off, but I don't think of cards in terms of events. I think of them more long-term. So like, try not to fall into the trap of like a FOMO hype event that occurs in a very small window of time when you have a whole lifetime to figure out what you're going to collect and stuff. So it's just kind of like the long-term holistic approach to, do you like Shohei Ohtani? Well, you should probably figure out like what's a good time of year to buy him, what's a good product to buy at this point. and not necessarily like, oh, can I capitalize and flip on this very small event when you're not exactly sure how it's going to affect it, because it could go up, but also the supply could increase because other people are thinking the same thing and they want to capitalize, and the supply goes up and the prices actually go down. So you're just, and it's like the whole like, oh, the documentary for Jordan, it boosted the prices, then it made it come down a lot. So it's just tough.
Yeah, good points. Here's what I want to add to that. So
Data.
we have Giannis. This is an Instagram post I made a little while ago. This is Giannis's total market index and card ladder. And I just pointed out milestones in Giannis's career and tried to track how his market reacted. So October 18th, the first game of the 17-18 season, that was really like Giannis's first season as like a true MVP caliber player. And there was a little bump at the beginning of the season as he broke out. Next event, Giannis wins his first MVP, and a tiny little bit of movement, very, very small. Giannis's first game of the 1920 season, little tick up following that. The market starts going crazy in the year 2020, okay? And we all know that the market exploded in 2020. Here is an indicator marking the COVID-19 stay-at-home orders coming down. Here was the previous peak in the Giannis market, which was the Bucks' first game in the bubble. Remember, everything was crazy during the bubble.
Yeah.
Giannis wins MVP, his second MVP. Now, after Giannis won his second MVP, his market went down. His market went down after the second MVP. Here's the start of the 2020-21 season. And then the next time that Giannis's market would start skyrocketing would not be tied to the overall market, but it was due to the fact that Giannis won his first title and his total market index took off after that. Not his Prism. If you're tracking his Prism base card, you're going to not see that trend, but his total market index really took off after he won the first title. Oh, I wanted to show one other thing too. Here is what Shohei Ohtani's. So here's Ohtani, 50 Ohtani cards and card ladder. Here's what his market index looks like over the last 6 months. Okay, so he started really jumping up in July of this year, peaked in September, and actually over the last month, Ohtani's cards are down 9%. Down. So I'm not saying that the Giannis case study is applicable to Ohtani or not, but in the case of Giannis, neither MVP really moved the needle much for him.
Yeah, I'm just not sure there's like a really direct correlation that says like this happens, then price doubles. Like it's not that simple. And it's more about like the market dynamics of cards themselves. I think that's kind of the point you're trying to make. And the other thing is that one good example I thought of was like when Mahomes won the Super Bowl, and someone in the chat kind of like illustrated this nicely. When Mahomes won the championship, the Super Bowl, his prices actually went down a little bit immediately, but leading up to the next season, they really took off. So I think what it does is like when something big like that happens, I think it was Casey Collects, so thanks for posting. It doesn't like immediately affect it necessarily in the direction that you want to, but I think what it does is it instills confidence long term in that player, and you'll just see like a more like gradual increase for them. So you may just want to try to capitalize on if the market goes down on an event that's really positive, I think that's a good time to buy. But if it goes up, maybe just sort of wait a little bit and see what happens. But I think if someone wins an MVP, they win a championship for the first time, and they're sort of like establishing themselves as this great long-term player, it's a great time to enter and sort of feel more confident long-term going with that player. Like Giannis and Mahomes are great examples.
Totally. And as with many things in life and with certain things in the hobby, patience and fidelity to your collection can really pay off, and following and chasing your collector instinct. So let's say like the collector instinct is like a dog chasing a bone, okay? And the collector instinct is, damn, Mahomes just won his first Super Bowl. All right, I need a Mahomes card. All the people who just followed that collector instinct and said, okay, Mahomes, he's He's really established himself now. I'm going to go buy a Mahomes card. They got a great deal because they went after he won the Super Bowl. The market was flooded by flippers trying to cash in, and they got to buy Mahomes at a valley. And then after all those collectors picked up their Mahomes cards, his market went back up. So I just think that just even when you can't obviously explain why, staying true to the collector impulses really tends to put you on the right side of the market as well. All right.
Yeah, I had one more quick thought. Like, you and I try to remain fairly humble on this regard of like, here's sort of we're trying to teach a man to fish. We're teaching some of the principles we've learned over the years, and we hope that that's sort of the foundation of this show is like teach people, how to get involved in the hobby, how to have fun with it, how to, not get clobbered financially so that you hate it. Like, these are some of the most basic things we try to teach, but we've like kind of practice what we preached. Like, we've been buying stuff for a really long time, and we're not really overly reactionary to anything. Like, I've been buying LeBron pretty consistently, and I'm not like waiting for him and hoping he wins another championship and depending on him winning another championship. When he won another one with the Lakers in the bubble, it definitely helped, but I wasn't like staking my whole financial future on him winning a championship. It's more that I felt strongly in his overall market and him as a player and everything he does on and off the court. And I felt strongly that no matter what happens going forward, here's how I feel about it. And then as those sort of accolades build up, it does help you long term. So I was just kind of pointing out that like the longer you're in this, the more that you dedicate to it, the more passion you have behind it, you're just going to end up doing better in the long run. And just try not to get caught up in these little blips and jumps and MVPs here and there, and just sort of focus like, do I think Ohtani is going to be great long term? Do I like him as a player? I think he's a great player to collect. Does he have cool cards that I can build up over time? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself.
Dude, totally. And that just spawned one last thought from me as well, which is just thinking like a collector when it comes to understanding market dynamics is necessary to understand the sports card market. There's a lot of people out there who understandably and in some respects rightfully tie sports card markets strictly to player performance. But there's a really obvious counterexample that says that there's more going on than a player's performance. And you want to know what it is? Michael Jordan, for example, has been retired for 20 years.
Right.
Okay? And I could go look at I can tell you off of Card Ladder that since the year 2004, his market has gone up around 20 or 25x, somewhere in that range, his total market. Michael Jordan didn't win any championships since 2004. He didn't add any more MVPs to his trophy case. He did nothing. Okay, he has bungled ownership of an NBA team. Some critics might say, and that's all he's done in terms of his contribution to the game of basketball the last 20 years. And his market has gone up somewhere between 20 and 25-fold. So it can't be true. It cannot be true that the sports card market is solely driven by on-court performance when you have retired GOATs if you don't want Jordan, then take Kobe. And if you don't want Kobe, then take Mickey Mantle. And if you don't want Mantle, then look at Babe Ruth. And if you don't want, I could just give you dozens and dozens and dozens of examples of the all-time greats markets going way up after they retired. So there's clearly more to this market, much more to this market than on-court performance.
And it's more than just like, collecting the specific way that you and I've collected. There's other ways to be successful. It's not just, you have to buy Jordan and LeBron and like these mega stars that have these there's other ways to do it too. You can also collect rare and super rare parallels and inserts of maybe like secondary tier Hall of Fame players or prospects. There's tons of ways to jump into the hobby and be successful. So like you don't necessarily have to just, and that's the whole reason that we fucking hate content creators who just tell you exactly what to buy. It doesn't work that way. You can't just fucking like say buy X and get rich. It's more about the principles and the foundational pieces towards being successful, teaching yourself and getting involved and putting more time into it.
It's very scary if an influential voice says, here's a high population commodity card that I think is a good investment, because what's going to happen? There's going to be a line of people who will buy that card, and then a month later, the same line of people are going to be dumping that card. And that creates a market dynamic of unsustainable volatility. And that's not the line of people that I, as a collector, ever want to be involved in, is the line just lining up to buy a card, to hopefully flip it. And, that whole group of people is going to have the same mentality. And as soon as they bought it, not shortly thereafter, they will be looking to flip it, and they'll all be looking to flip it at the same time.
That's the beauty of this market, is like, one person has 50 million followers, 100 million followers, and if they say this is the best investment of your life, go buy it, for the majority of people that listen to that advice, it ends up being the worst. Like, no matter how hard you push something to be true, the market and the foundational pieces and the collectability and the hobby, those are going to beat any influencer that exists, no matter what they say. And we can even prove the point that when they say it, it's actually worse, like you just said. So I love that part of the hobby.
Okay, so now that there was a rant by me against only using on-court performance to try and anticipate the market, now let me say something nice about on-court performance by bringing in a question from Pancake Analytics. He says, discuss the possibility of leveraging 538's Carmelo projections for speculative buys. And so the Carmelo projections that 538 does, if you just kind of, it's not a reference, it's not talking about Carmelo Anthony. It's an advanced metric that 538 has devised to try and project the future performance of a player. In particular, they say our projection system identifies similar players throughout NBA history and uses them to develop a probabilistic forecast of what a current NBA player's future might look like. And so then they have Zion here. His weight is in the 99th percentile, which it's good. Okay, and then this is pretty neat. Here's the wins above replacement projection for Zion over the course of his career, and then they show you some similar players: Elton Brand, Chris Webber, Adrian Danley, Karl-Anthony Towns, Carmelo Anthony. Okay, and then Kevin Durant. So it's an interesting, but the point that Pancake Analytics was making is that, look, can we shorthand or can we shortcut trying to anticipate which players are going to be good by coming in and using analytic tools like this that are trying to make projections about how well a player will perform. But I certainly think there might be something to that. But I think you're gonna when you're trying to be this rigorous, ironically, even though it's for the purpose of making a shortcut, I think you should actually systematically study this and empirically measure if it works.
Also, the other favorite of mine to invest is investing in things that have already happened. I don't need to prospect on whether or not LeBron's going to make it. He did. He made it. It's a miracle. Jordan, they made it. God willing, they figured out a way to be some of the greatest players of all time. Steph Curry, we already know. He made it, guys. He can shoot. I know for a fact he can shoot the damn basketball. That's a bit of a sarcastic reply to the question, but Pancake Analytics is one of my favorite commenters, posters. So
yeah, he's good. He's good. So, and any question from him, is going to be a smart question. So but I don't know. I mean, I've never tried using that method, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. All right. Somebody named...
Didn't work for Lonzo Ball investors.
No, it didn't. Okay. So my other page says, I've seen a lot of people making custom cards. For example, I've seen some people make stained glass cards of players that don't have a stained glass card. What are your guys' take on custom cards, and is it good for the hobby? We touch on this topic maybe like twice or three times, right?
It's been a while though. I personally don't like it. I know that some people enjoy it, and I think it's only good in very specific situations. The very specific situation is that you as an individual contact someone who creates custom cards. You buy it for yourself. It's just for you to enjoy. It's not mass produced. It's some sort of one-off thing. Like I want a Giannis green PMG, in a Bucks jersey or something, and I just want to enjoy this for my collection. And even like I personally don't agree with that scenario exactly, but I'm okay with like other people doing something like that. The part that gets tricky, and I really am gonna put my foot down, is like, I'm creating a stained glass and I'm trying to make this new market for something that's close to the reality but not quite, and I'm trying to make it reality. That's the part where it's like it's not licensed, you're creating something that's not intended to be created, and you're kind of trying to fuck with the market too much. So I'd rather keep the custom card thing sort of like cornered and keep it locked down to very specific people and individuals where it doesn't get out of hand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the word custom is used to describe a wide range of different cards. Custom can refer to those one-of-one style art pieces that you mentioned, and then custom somehow also refers to like bootleg, Dunkin' Go Nuts, manufactured copies, and somehow those are both considered custom. So like customs as one-of-one art pieces, good. That's nice. There's some fair use going on. Perhaps those even would be free and clear of any copyright claims, and or assuming they use IP from the league or the players. So customs as one art piece is good. Customs as mass-produced ripoffs, reprints, generic money grabs, not so good at all. They can ruin the markets, and that's not good. And then there's sort of like this. There's sort of like a lane for like the reprint cards. There's sort of like a lane for the reprint cards. If like, I'll never own a PMG, but let me buy this like reprint of it to like display or something like that. I think that's in a tricky place in terms of IP, but it's clearly a fake. So
Yeah, it's almost like the intent, right? It's like, are you intending to trick people and like make them think that this is cool and try to influence people that, custom cards should be a thing and you shouldn't care about licensing and the proper, national treasures and Prism and like, fuck the system, kind of like this is the way that it should be. That's the dangerous part versus like, I just bought this for my kid. It's kind of a fun one-off thing. I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
I equate it to like fake Louis Vuitton purses. Like you either buy it for your teenager because they can't be trusted with the real thing, or you buy it for yourself because you wish you were able to afford the real thing.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Good. All right. RSTU Cards says, are there any good examples of 90s sets / inserts that broke out well after release? And if so, why?
Oof. I don't have any data in front of me, Chris.
Can I just make an observation? Can I say something real quick that's off topic? The Phoenix Suns are beating the Dallas Mavericks by 9 points, and there are 48 seconds left in the game. And Monty Williams just took out all the starters. Okay?
Yep.
9.
Smart. Big brain.
Big brain. They're up 9. 48 seconds left. Took out all the starters. When Luka got injured, they're up 8 now. When Luka got injured, an ankle and knee injury on Monday of this week, the Mavericks were up 13 points, and there was 44 seconds left, and Jason, Mr. Potato Head Kid, left the starters in. He left and he'd done that in 2 or 3 of the previous games also. Now, should Luka have been flying around trying to block? No. But what the hell was he doing leaving the starters in, up 13 points with 44 seconds left? Could have easily had his players take a foul, or he could have called timeout in the possession before. And I just look at the score of this game, is a 9-point lead, and the Mavericks had the ball. And Phoenix subbed out all their players, 48 seconds left. What the hell's going on, kid? All right.
It's nice to have an adult as a coach. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Like a grown man adult. who just makes very simple decisions.
I'm so disappointed by that. All right, so
Could be mad, dude. It's fucking common sense. Like, take the fucking starter out. This isn't that hard. Dude, if you don't make me talk about Lakers tonight, because I'm so fucking annoyed at that team right now. They're so stupid. I hate that team. They're annoying me. I'm a fan. I'm just like a hardcore fan like you, where you're gonna get me really pissed off when I have to watch Carmelo and Westbrook jack up terrible shots and turn the ball over 7 times. Dude, Russell Westbrook is averaging more turnovers than ever, and his usage rate is lower than ever. How is that possible? How management is like, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll just fucking like sign every 38-year-old Hall of Famer who hasn't been good for 7 years. All you had to do, you have LeBron and Anthony Davis. All you got to do is surround them with complementary pieces and hope those two guys stay healthy, figure out how to piece the team together around it, get to the playoffs. They already did it in the bubble. Like they did this, and now they're trying to.
where are you going? What's happening?
They lost by 22 points to the freaking Celtics, and LeBron played. Stupid. LeBron was like -2 in the box score, and they lost by 22.
Yeah, that sucks, dude. That really sucks.
I'm tired of it.
You look at
It
what
sucks because he's in year 19, dude. He's freaking old. This is like the last shot, and the team's like not good enough.
Yeah, I know. They don't have time to waste this year. And, damn, they made some weird off-season moves. And you just look at how the Wizards are doing and stuff. It's just like, man, for Westbrook, oh, no.
They just like panicked. They panicked on like, let's just get rid of everybody who's young and like talented that we're developing and just get Westbrook and Carmelo and Dwight Howard and fuck.
Yeah. Yep.
And Anthony Davis is playing like a little bitch. It's annoying.
Yeah. Well,
Dude, he got punked. He got destroyed. And Giannis destroyed him the other night. Come on, dude, have some pride.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, what was the question?
The question was 90s.
Do you have a take on the Lakers? I don't want to. Go ahead.
Not yet. I'm not going to make any takes on the Lakers until they've had LeBron back in the rotation for 20, 30 games. Because
Trey Burke just dribbled the ball out of bounds. How is he in?
the starters are out because these coaches are
But why
trying
were
to
the
hurt
starters out when they were only down by 6?
because the game is over. Okay, so anyway.
And then,
Okay,
No,
all
like-
right. Just let us go here. We tried to answer a question and got interrupted by ourselves.
The question was like inserts, and we're talking.
Okay, so the question was inserts or sets that broke out after release. And yeah, there's one famous one. It was the 97-98 PMGs.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, there's a very well-known one. Those used to sell for less than the 97-98 Gold Embossed Refractor die cuts from Finest. They used to sell for the same as the PMG out of 50 from Metal Universe Championship. There's some great Beckett articles that came out contemporaneously with the release that gave the product like 2 out of 5 stars and stuff. So there's a great example. Those broke out and became, the most coveted or one of the most coveted parallels from the 90s. And that was not always the case. So there's
It's even spawned like this whole thing, like what's the next PMG? Like it got so famous that people are trying to find the next thing to break out, post release.
Yep.
I have a few that I enjoy that I feel are sort of on that similar, and then like that aren't popular amongst other people. And if you have that, just what do you fucking Laker stuff? And if you have that, just keep buying it, keep enjoying it, and collecting it.
right on. In Cardboard Veritas with another multifaceted question that's very good. He says, I think it's really hard for pricing platforms to provide accurate guidance on vintage cards. You have all the challenges of modern, plus very rare sales for many cards within a given grade. And then the really tough one, eye appeal centering within a particular grade has a huge impact on value. Sometimes there can be a 100% variance, a PSA 3 that's weak.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, a PSA 3 that's strong can outsell a weak PSA 5. What are your thoughts on vintage pricing models, including these two issues? Could a price range rather than a single price point for a particular grade be a part of the answer?
Yeah, this is kind of similar to like the BGS 9.5 with different subgrades and stuff.
Totally.
Vintage is like vintage. I kind of want to hear your take on vintage because you've added a lot of vintage cards and a lot of different grades. What do you think about this variance?
I think it's just a question of how we present the information, because right now we do assign a singular value to each
Yeah.
card, but we also provide a full-blown sales history of the cards as well. So if somebody wanted to construct a range, just open up the sales history and click the links and take a look at what some of those cards that sold look like, and so on and so forth. Do as deep of a dive as you wish to do. Use the sales history to sort of sketch a boundary. Avail yourself of the compare feature, like line up 3, 4, 5, 6, the PSA of 3, 4, 5, and 6, and like see that these prices ever cross over, and then sort of start to sketch that sale range in your mind. I think that's the way, like we made reference to power users earlier in the episode. I think that's the way a power user would approach that problem. I think it can start to get, maybe once again, it can get a little sophisticated, a little complicated. We are providing value ranges on a card, and it also starts to get a little bit subjective, which is okay. Sometimes you need to be a little bit subjective, but inject some human judgment. But I think that, there's also something to be said for the simplicity of assigning one value and leaning into the fact that collectors of these cards can look at the graph and should also be knowledgeable that this is simply a function of buying BGS slabs, which have subgrade variants, and it's also a function of buying PSA or vintage slabs as well.
Yeah, I want to add to that by saying, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, where on the product side and on the app, the platform, we want to make it where, the default is something fairly simple. You see the one CL value price, you see the last sold. It's fairly simple to dissect. But what we're really trying to do with the product is like entice you to want to research and dive into it further by showing you a lot of other visuals with the graphs and the sales histories and the pictures, because we know from experience that just telling you the price of something is not the solution. The solution is to give you a bunch of data and see how you sort of dive into it and adapt to all the information that you're seeing and how you learn and research at your own pace and the way that you like to do it. And that's going to make you the most successful long term. It's not just like, giving you the simple answer on, all PSA 3 vintage Will Chamberlains are worth exactly this. That's not reality. The reality is, like, you need to do your homework on the different variations of pricing models across, whether it's centered, whether it's got soft corners, which of the different, subgrades make it more valuable than others. Like, that kind of stuff is kind of on you to research, and that's ultimately what the platform is about. Card Ladder is about teaching you the fundamentals to, be successful for yourself long term.
Casey Collects wants to know, what is the ultimate end game when collecting cards? Is there even one?
Man, we're getting philosophical tonight, Chris. That's just happening.
Well,
just deal with it, bro.
You just deal with it. I saw Lamim come in. I think Lamim would say the ultimate game is to be buried with your cards. I think he's a big advocate of dying and bringing your cards with you. He may even have a that effect.
It's a great question. It's a really hard question. I think I'll just speak for myself. I think you want to get to a place where you're really happy with your collection, but you're constantly giving yourself new challenges. Like, you want to find that sweet spot of, like, I've got all the cards that I feel like I've if my collecting stopped today, I feel really confident and strong about, like, what I have in my collection. I enjoy looking at it. It's very balanced. It's kind of got a little bit of everything that I enjoy. If someone that didn't know anything about me saw this, they could learn some things about me and enjoy looking through my collection. I think you want to get to that point, but also give yourself some wiggle room for some future challenges. Like, right when you're about to finish something really difficult, you should set up that next challenge to continue to go on, because until you actually do die as a human, you always kind of want that next challenge in your life. I don't know, I don't really have much else. Is that kind of
That's good. That's deep. Okay, let me show a meme. Let me follow up that philosophy with a meme. All right. Okay. All right. So this guy says, "Son, he's crying. Son, I worked 50 long years and managed to save $500,000 for you." And then his son says, "I'll put it directly into my savings account." This was in 2020. All right.
I love this so much.
And then this guy says, he says, "Son, I amassed life-changing wealth in 1 year due to influencer pumping. Take this PSA 10 1986 Fleer recording." And this guy says, "I will hodl and bury it with me."
Hodl.
Okay.
That's so funny. You guys haven't seen me giggle in a while. That's so good.
What is hodl?
It means hold.
It just means like hold, but it's like the the meme like crypto way to say hold.
So,
I had this guy. There's a guy that I used to work with. His license plate said it was like LTC, which is Litecoin. It said HODL Litecoin, HODL LTC, and I was like, HODL Litecoin.
okay. So
Well,
that,
give me your answer. Yeah, give me your answer.
well, that meme, I put a comment on that meme. I said, "Stop making anti-collector memes." Okay, and it got 14 likes. All right, because you know what? Because because that meme is like making fun of the hodlers. Right?
I got you. You know, like when one person starts giggling, and then it's just like a riot, and it's too late.
Yeah, I know it's a very good meme, and but what's the end game? Oh, this is such an easy question to me. The end game is just have fun. Do whatever the hell you're doing. The hobby's supposed to be a release. Have fun, enjoy yourself. As long as you're having fun, that's enough of an end game.
What a simpleton you are.
Sometimes simple is
The easy answer is sometimes the best answer.
yeah, but then somebody might come back and say, "Oh, well, what do you mean? How do you have fun? Okay, what are the steps to having fun?" And but then we get into a much deeper question.
Well, the fun is basically what I tell you is fun. So you guys have to listen to everything I say, buy the cards I tell you to buy, and that's what's fun for you. I'll tell you what's fun. That's how this works. Isn't that how the influence?
Yeah, it's fun for them because they're the ones pumping up a card that they bought for $10 and then selling it to idiots for $50.
Whoo!
Maybe this question is a turn it around kind of deal where maybe everyone should kind of take 2 weeks. Fuck it, take 2 weeks because we won't be back next week. Figure out what the answer is for yourself, because it's like some people want to be buried with their cards. Some people want to build up enough equity in cards and sell them all and retire to a beach. Some people want to do what I do, where you've got what you feel content, but you want to keep going, kind of thing. There's different answers, right?
Yes, and I got a little nervous because we tasked one of the question askers last week with answering his own question, and he sent us basically a small research paper.
He did.
Ooh.
You saw that, didn't you? It was like a long ass message that had you, me, and Christina in the group chat.
Yes, I don't read anything
spreadsheet
that's more than 2
attached.
sentences.
I knew you didn't. Okay. So Josh didn't read it. Yeah, it's
Surprise! He
Wow, that's what you think of me? You're like,
he doesn't read things. What are
you're
you
like, this
doing over
asshole just. You know what?
So Josh didn't read this yet, but he I think he put it on his to-do list. But a listener wrote a very detailed answer to his own question that we turned around on him. His question was like something along the lines of, "What's some good, cheap, modern product to buy?" And then he did extensive research. He attached a spreadsheet. He analyzed how many autographs per each box. He came up with an expected value theory, basically, of each box. And then, lo and behold, he concluded that 2017-18 status basketball was, in fact, the best. It was his number one ranked value proposition by box. So we were able to land on that answer without needing to do the
I
research.
don't know. I think that was a little bit like you tell the professor what they want to hear so that you get it right.
Smart students.
So
Smart students. But then the other.
When I read that and looked at the spreadsheet, I was like,
what are the other products that he mentioned?
You could fix the formula on this and have a different answer.
He mentioned 2017-18 Ascension, which is a product I am not familiar with. And he mentioned that was number 2. Honorable mention was 2020-21 Donruss Elite.
Oh, nice.
What was number 3? It's a long message, Christina's.
Okay, so first was 17 status. Second was 2020 recon.
Oh, second was 2020. Do you have your maxi cleavers from 2020 recon nearby?
No, they're in my case. I'll grab them.
Okay, so Christina's going to grab her mail days.
I love when someone has a task at hand and they're held accountable to said task and they deliver. So I'm very thrilled this person took the task and went and did their best with it. So I'm happy to hear that. But TLDR, my friend.
This guy over delivered.
TLDR. Too long, didn't read. Give me the cliff notes.
So second was 2020 recon. Third was
That's cool.
Ascension, and then honorable mention for 2020 Donruss Elite.
That's cool.
This
is the category of like fun to rip but not expensive?
Yes.
That's a cool looking card.
Yeah, this is 2020-21 recon.
And these are the gold out of 10s.
Dude, Lamim, I thought that same thing, buddy.
Yeah. He's like, oh, aren't you guys like the people who over explain and like way over engineer and over product everything? Hire that dude.
Oh, shit. Okay. Chaz Pennysleeve says, regarding the data that Josh pulled on the high, mid, and low-end sports card indexes, what role do you think PSA shutting down their cheaper service levels played on all of this data? Also, when PSA fully reopens, should we assume that there will be more liquidity in the market that will raise the overall market value of low-end graded cards?
I think a huge part, dude. I think a huge role, because that was like one of the things we talked about when they closed was like, this is going to hurt the low-end market because people are no longer going to be able to grade, flip, and sell. And that's a huge part of the hobby ecosystem, is like the value baked into it of, you know, can I grade this, can I flip it, and continue on in my collecting journey. And if there's no prospect of making money at those low-end tiers, it's a huge part of its, you know, future prospecting value of it. So I'd say massive.
Yeah, I totally agree. Huge.
Just make me do all the work, and then you just get to agree.
I do. That's what's going to happen on this one. I completely agree with that. And I just think that's one of the most underrated factors of the 2021 hobby was the PSA shutdown. I think it doesn't get nearly enough discussion. It is strongly correlated with when the market sharply corrected, beginning in March and April of earlier this year. It's just, I think it was a huge factor.
A bold statement that I think grading is the single most influential aspect of price increase in the last 10 years, 20 years. Can you think of anything more influential than the grading?
Like that's intrinsic to the hobby?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Because it's everything. You know, it's scarcity, it's rarity, it's confidence, it's the ability to invest, it's everything. Confidence is the number one thing. Your confidence in a market, in an aspect of your life. Do I want to put money into this? How much confidence do you have in that thing going forward? And grading took it tenfold. Whether you like to complain about, you know, the grading's gotten stricter and easier, and the graders are, you know, biased and all these different things that people like to throw at it. It's, you know, if you really had to whittle it down, it still is a huge boost to the confidence because it's a third-party reputable person trained in grading something, and on the whole, it's a very helpful process.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Okay. RV Sports Card says, I've had a couple of conversations with people that had interest in entering the hobby recently. However, I had a hard time suggesting where to start because so much has changed since I first entered. What would be a good suggestion for someone to start entering the hobby with $1,000 or less? If, one, they already think they can figure out how to make money, even though I've told them it's not easy. And two, they already have a favorite team or player that they want to collect. So they think they already know how to make money, and they already know the player or the team they want to collect. They have $1,000 or less. So what's a good suggestion? What would you tell that person if they came to you?
I think I want to speak more to the person who's asking this question than I do, and that I want to answer the question and give them the simple solution. I think that the person who's asking this question has a very important role in the hobby, and not only for this specific situation, but going forward for everybody in this situation, because the way that you treat this going forward is how we expand the hobby, how we bring new people, how we get our friends into it, how we ourselves have more fun by joining up with our friends in our real life. It's an important juncture in your hobby collecting career that I think you need to take very, very seriously. And the fact that they're asking this question, I think is good. They're thinking about it. I would say they're right. Like I would probably sit this person down and say, like, you definitely don't have all the answers. Let's look at this. Let's figure out what your goals are. Let's figure out who your favorite players are. Let's go over like what potential cards you're looking at within that player. Let's map it out. Let's spend a month researching prices before we start buying stuff. Let's really dig in, spend a lot of time on this, reverse engineer this shit. Let's, understand who you are as a person. There's just so much to it, dude, that it's not just like, oh, go buy Prism Silver. That's what people wanted it to be. I think that's why the market tanked so much with the base stuff, is like people wanted the simple answer. I'm new to the hobby. Give me what's the one stupid little tidbit you can give me to be successful. Oh, just buy Prism Silver PSA 10s. You'll be set. And that didn't work because everybody tried that and it sucked. The real answer is you're going to have to spend a lot of time on this. How can I help you be successful with this long term by, helping you commit to it and have fun with it? What do those steps look like? Anything else? What else you got to add to that?
That's great. That's more effort than I would put into it. So I think that's a great, helpful answer. I don't know, man. I think there's something to be said for like kind of organically, like the best way to rediscover the hobby is just to rediscover all your old cards, look them all up on eBay, be like, whoa, what are these plastic cases that they're in? And just like start learning about it, like that's the way to do it. So if you can't recreate that environment for someone, I don't know, man. What would be the closest thing to recreating that for me is like opening a cheap box, like a 17-18 status basketball box. Like get one of those boxes, open it, have the experience of getting all the cards, looking up their values, and like let that take you down a rabbit hole. That's not going to be a great value proposition probably, but I just think that's very educational. Then all of a sudden you're incentivized to learn the checklist and to figure out what all these different cards are and how rare they are, and decide whether or not you like that product and understand how important the key rookie cards are and stuff. Like I think that's a good way to learn.
Put yourself in the newbie's shoes if you can, and pretend I'm the experienced person and you come to me. What do you want me to tell you? Like, what are you hoping to get out of someone that's more experienced? Because I like to do things kind of on my own and research on my own. But if you were to actually come to me for help, what were you hope to hear?
I would hope to hear something that is going to unlock my ability to achieve goals and have fun.
Yeah. You don't want the shortcut. You don't want to hear the one-liner shortcut, right?
No way. Definitely not.
So it's like, how do you ask a question to get you drawn into it for more than just this answer? That's a tough thing. It's like You almost gotta like throw them into the fire. You gotta like make them screw up almost too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I like the box thing. Just go buy a box of 17 status basketball, open it, figure out what every card in that box is worth, figure out what the most valuable card that you could have got from that box is, learn the checklists, learn the methods of like looking stuff up, pricing stuff, learn pop reports of the stuff that's in there, pick out some that you think are worth grading, just like really just synthesize or rather simulate the new
Simulate.
experience.
I'm going through this right now with Cole, one of the
Mhm.
one of the members of the Card Ladder team. He's getting into Pokemon, and his friend is also getting into it. So I'm kind of coaching the two of them through it together, and they both have very different approaches to what's fun for them. And so I'm trying to like balance the two of them separately of how I give them little tidbits to kind of keep them engaged and keep them going. It's interesting. One of them, Cole, I kind of needed him to fail a little bit because like he was going on down the route of like, oh, let me just kind of buy everything I find kind of thing, and I sort of like encouraged him, like, yeah, just start buying stuff, see what you think, see what you like, see what you don't, figure out what you'll think about grading, and like it's been a month or so, and he's started to figure out like I don't like a lot of this stuff now that I've had it, and I want to focus in more on what I do like, and that's great, right? That's the way to do it. Figure out what you do like. I can't guess for you. I'm not going to tell you what you like. You're going to have to kind of like get a taste of all of it. The other guy, he was very focused on like I want high grade investable type things that I also like. And so I was able to kind of go in with him and give him more explicit suggestions of like, okay, I know kind of what you're getting at. Here's maybe like 5 or 6 things that I feel are good investments, but also like kind of what you're describing to me, and they're PSA 10s. It's a little bit safer, they're kind of rare, they're more enjoyable. So it really more depends on like who you're talking to. You can't just like give a blanket bit of advice to every single person the same. It kind of depends on the person you're talking to too.
Yeah, let me say something that this made me think of too. So this is Cole's Instagram, and like you'll notice the presentation of the cards is fantastic, and that's like Cole leaning into his natural talent set as a graphic designer that just makes his page absolutely pops. And if I had those graphic design skills, I would be having a blast just making my page like absolutely pop like that. So like leaning into things that you're naturally good at and that you naturally like is a great blend that into your hobby experience. I have no graphic design skills at all, but I like to think analytically. So very early on in our hobby journey, I made a podcast that was heavily analytics driven. It's like lean into those things that you like and blend them with your hobby experience, and you're gonna have even more fun.
I fucking love that advice. That's so good.
Yeah. Okay. We're not gonna get to all the questions tonight. There's a lot still. Okay.
Sure we are. We got hour 3. Why do you always look out? You always do that. When I say hour 3, you look over at her like, am I allowed to kind of thing. That's what that is.
Okay, let me see here.
You're like, am I allowed? Oh, I don't know.
Look, this is the longest question I think we've ever gotten.
Oh my god. TLDR.
I just only skimmed it, so I don't even. Right. Oh, but this is a good question. This is a good question. All right. Cool.
All right.
Taking quickly. Paul says, every time I show my PC to a friend, the following ends up happening. I lay out the cards on the table, we talk about them for a bit, and then eventually they will pick up one of the cards, look at it closely, and say something like, "This is a 7, what's wrong with it?" And then I get out my phone, I zoom in 5x and point out the flaws in the card. I realize I'm in the minority on this, but has the hobby been tricked into placing massive premiums on things that are not even noticeable just because the number on the slab is very noticeable, excepting centering? Clearly, condition matters, and I'm guessing the initial reaction will be that the price distribution is justified. But as an exercise, how do you think the current distribution would compare with a distribution in a world where all slabs are marked as authentic and people had to decide themselves what the value should be by looking at the card in hand with no magnification, which is how cards are enjoyed post-purchase? So is grading a scam? is the question. No, it's not.
Yeah, it's a really thoughtful question, and I appreciate the question. And I know where this person's head is at. I know where they're going with it. Um, it's like, do I think grading's overrated? Do I think grading's underrated? I think grading is the most properly rated thing of all time. Like, it definitely matters, and there's a reason that it matters because there's a lot of people, myself included, who want someone to tell you what the grade is, and I want to know that it's a 7. And so, as someone who's in the hobby for a really long time, I really want the grading aspect. It instills a lot of confidence in me. So there's a huge portion of the market who really wants that, and so you can't ignore that, right? But all that said, I get it, right? That's a very frustrating thing to show sort of a non-collector, and then their first thought is like, why is it a 7? What's wrong with your stupid collection? That's a very frustrating aspect of it. I don't know. I don't really have like a super genius answer. I just I feel like grading is very well. It's been enough time that grading is not underrated or overrated. It's figured out. We know what it is. It's a known commodity. The grading scale has sort of worked itself out over time. It's very well optimized. That's the word.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I have a couple of pieces of advice on this one. Number one, lean into the low grades. Lean into them. It's a way to self-deprecate. It's just a talking piece. 99 times out of 100, your friend who's over talking to you isn't in the market to buy this card from you. So I know Paul has super nice cards, and his friends are probably aware of how nice they are, or at least know that he's dealing in high-end, super nice collectibles. So don't make them feel even worse and have them in perfect grades. Lean into the low grades. Use it as a way to self-deprecate and to show some humility.
Honda Civic.
The Honda Civic theory of life. Lean into those, okay? And then the other hand, Paul, I understand the frustration because it certainly becomes tiresome to have the talking points of a beautiful card be its technical grade. But by the same token, we can always just crack the cards out and have our whole collections in what Carvin calls RAW, graded by RAW. Which
It's another three-syllable fucking acronym. Or 3-letter acronym.
Which means they're not graded at all. So keep the cards raw. That's a way to avoid having to have that discussion. Or you can have or you can have them all graded authentic, and then that again removes the need to have that discussion. But the problem is that that's trying to shortcut. That's trying to circumvent reality, because at the end of the day, the technical grade does matter. Even if one card, if the card is like a 6 or a 7, that still is adding a premium in many instances over the raw counterpart. In specific, like these 90s grails that I know Paul collects. So there's just never going to be a perfect situation, but at least you have a talking point. At least there's something to jump off a discussion about the card. And, there are options, right? The chat has brought up a couple of times the raw thing and stuff, but I understand it. I wouldn't ever want to take my graded cards out and put them into raw condition, especially if they're 90s condition sensitive, super difficult cards where provenance and authenticity matters a lot. So there's no perfect solution there, man, but I hope there's a couple ideas to work with.
And Lamim's in the chat, and I know he's kind of joking, kind of serious, but I agree. And this is just my personal opinion. I really, really do not like the authentic grade. I think it's like, if you're gonna grade a card, grade the fucking card. I don't understand why you would. I get okay, you want it protected, but and you want it authenticated. So that's the two, part of the pillars of grading. But just finish the job. Get the number on it. Tell me what the grade is. And I really like how you talked about leaning into it. And if someone asks you why it's a 7, take that opportunity to explain to them, the aspects of condition, but also the fact that yeah, this is a 7 and I have it graded and it's enjoyable to me because it's rare, right? Or because it has meaning to me. And you can kind of you use that opportunity to explain the next 2 or 3 pieces to the hobby of why you have that in your collection. It's not just like, oh, I don't just buy all tens. That's not the entirety of the hobby. It's that I'm collecting a certain piece of the hobby and I want to get more rare cards. And yes, some of my cards are sixes, some of them are sevens. Here's why. And it's a nice conversation piece. Dude, like there's nobody who is going to, like spend a lot of time making fun of your seven and your Honda Civic and like your, poor decisions that you've made, your shitty things. Like self-deprecate, lean into it, have fun with it. If someone makes fun of your seven, fucking great. Then just, go with it.
Yeah. Yep. Right on. And, I was thinking when I look at like a graded comic book, which I know nothing about, or a graded video game, which I know nothing about, the difference between like a 9.2 and a 9.4 is completely meaningless to me. The grade points themselves are meaningless distinctions. And that's going to be the same way when you're talking with friends as well. They're not going to know the difference between like a 5 and a 9. They're just looking for something to talk about. And that is one of the first things that the eye is drawn to is the technical grade. And whether we know something about the particular category of collectible or not, we certainly all can understand a 10-point grading scale. So it's just something to talk about. But I get the frustration, and I don't know. It's made for some good dialogue tonight, if nothing else.
Talking about your collection is like one of the best. You know this. People love talking about their own collections. That's the one constant and one true piece of the hobby that I know will always be there is that people love talking about their own collections. And so if someone asks you, why is it a 7? Great. You asked me a question about my collection. Now I get to talk about my collection.
Wow, the population report on this actually.
Oh, the gem rate, the rarity, like PSA 7 is actually a pretty high grade technically in this sort of
these actually came out of the pack with damage in many instances. So
my PSA 4 green PMG, people have, like non-collectors look at that and they have so many questions. Why is it a 4? 4? Jeez, what the fuck is this like? Did you eat this card before you graded it? Like, did you try to bite it? And then the question is like, why is it so green? It's like, oh my god, these are great questions. Let me like spend the next 20 minutes explaining to you why this PSA 4 is like my favorite card.
We had a lot of PMG hype. I don't know. People are like excited about PMGs right now.
Right now?
It might get a little. Are we gonna have to pivot against the PMGs if people keep talking about them too much? Okay, but here's the PMG question. All right.
Well, because I have one, I have to continue to hype it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that part of this. Okay, that's true.
Idiot.
Okay, so Brett ZKY6 says, he wrote the same question 3 times but swapped out the names for the 3 of us, all 3 of us. He
Very
said,
good.
Josh, Chris, and Christina, if there was a LeBron or a Jordan or a Luka rookie year PMG, where would it rank on your want list?
Like a legit, like licensed Cavs jersey.
Gotta be, yeah, gotta be.
Really, really, really high.
Yep.
Knowing what I know about the PMG green penny, if there was, if I'm going to put myself in the mind space of like, it's real for a LeBron rookie, very, very high. Probably near the top.
Yeah.
I would say number 1.
Oh!
I wasn't willing to go to that because it's not real, and I just don't want to put down my other cards.
I will. I'll do it for you, Josh.
Christina bullies her other cards all the time.
All the time. I show my maxes to my Luca and tell them to watch out.
You're like, get better. Be better cards.
Yeah. Why couldn't you guys be better?
Like the Anthony Davis of your collection.
Or
the Kristaps Porzingis.
I don't know if Lamim's still in here, but that guy gets so mad at the players he collects. It's very, very funny. he's so mad
every time
at
they miss
Porter Jr. right now.
No, but Marvin Bagley.
Oh yeah, no. I hope Marvin Bagley and him never meet. The
That
opening
guy's so
card here
funny.
is up front.
That guy's really funny. Man, that guy's hilarious.
No doubt. Okay, but dude, I do need to call it because an inordinate amount of sales came in tonight. I guess because there's a big heritage auction that ended a few days ago. So I am going to call this one. The beef says he whipped my ass. All right, great show, guys. Remember that the crossover now starts at 8 p.m. Pacific, and it will for the next 6 months or so. So 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, because I saw a lot of people join at midnight Eastern, but we start an hour earlier now. We start the crossover an hour earlier.
But no crossover next week, right?
Yeah, but no crossover next week, so.
But we might do something live from Bleecker, so stay tuned on Monday, November 29th.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Good show, guys. See you guys in 2 weeks.
See you.
Card Ladder, the best sports card app on the market. The future of sports cards is here. Card Ladder is the 21st century price guide and market analysis tool for sports cards. The best tools to help you track your cards. Watch the trends, stay informed, compare cards, and track the growth of your personal collection, all in one simple and intuitive platform. Join the innovators, not the imitators. The future is here. The future is now. Card Ladder.